Hi, guys. Hello. I'm just going to give it a few minutes for everyone to get on. I went a few minutes a little earlier here today just because I'm eager to have this conversation. So I'm really excited to be here. I'm Sarina, founder of Masala Bhangra. And normally I usually talk about fitness and why it's important and get you up and moving or something or the other. But today we're going to chat and we're going to talk about schools and the school system and how do you know if it's the right school to pick for your child? And just really simple questions because I am totally new at all of this. I'm really excited to bring on a girlfriend of mine who's like a little sister to me. And so I've watched her grow and I've watched her do her thing in New York City. And she's very well known. She actually also ran for office. So if you know New York City well, then you might recognize her. She does a lot more than I do. She sits on the PTA at her school, the one that she went to. So I'm just really excited to have this conversation with her about schooling and what to look out for and all of that good stuff. I want to bring her in right at 12 o'clock. I just wanted to go in a little earlier just to give you guys a few minutes to get in. And if you're a mom out there and you're not sure, just like I'm not sure, I'm being really honest. Like I am overwhelmed with this decision, and so if you're also in the same boat, please come in and just chat with us. We're two really cool moms just wanting to have a conversation and understand what this is all about, and decide, what is the best school system for our children. So I'm going to bring her in, and here we go. Hello, Ms. Deepti Sharma.
Hi, how are you?
I'm awesome. I'm awesome. Nice to see you. Are you at your parents' restaurant?
Yes, I am. I'm at Amma. Um, I would normally give you a tour, but I feel like I'm always afraid to like move my camera whenever I'm doing these because I'm like I don't want to lose my connection. But now I'm excited.
Uh-oh. Oh, I think we might have lost connection with her. Oh no. All right. Well, we'll wait for her to come back in. Yeah, I think we might have lost connection there with her. So we'll wait for her to come back in and then we'll go there. Anyway, so this has been a really interesting topic. I have a 4.5-year-old and I have a 2.5-year-old. And the 4.5-year-old is going into kindergarten. And she's going to be starting kindergarten in September. So this is really exciting. I feel very overwhelmed because of the fact that this is like the start of the education, right? All right, so let's bring Deepti back in.
Sorry about that.
Just when you were saying, I'm afraid to lose connection, and then
I know. Story of my life of this past year. But
yeah,
luckily I
no,
got it back. Sorry.
I know it's okay. It's all good. Okay, so here we go. My name is Sarina, and welcome. I'm the creator of Masala Bhangra. It's an Indian dance program that's been around for the last 21 years. So I'm very excited about where it's made its journey in the last so many years. And Deepti Sharma is the CEO of Food to Eat. She's also into politics. She's also on the PTA and just does a lot of things. Is a Queens, she's Queens born and raised in New York City, and I'm California born and raised, living in New York City now. So we are here to chat with you and chat with each other and just help each other sort out our thoughts of what school systems are like. I can only speak about New York, even though I was born and raised in California, but we can only speak about New York City because now this is where our children is. So before we get started, Deepti, let me just give everyone who's chiming in, and guys, if you're chiming in, please like, share, join in our conversation. I would love, love, love for you to share your 2 cents or ask any questions, all of that good stuff. But Dipti and I have 2 kids each. She has 2 boys, I have 2 girls, and they're really around the same age. So her older one and my older one are both going into kindergarten. And so this is the $1 million question, right, Dipti?
Yeah.
What's the best school? How do you decide on what is the best school for your child?
Honestly, for me, the
What's the answer?
priorities. Well, there is no right answer. It's honestly like we were talking about this a couple of days ago, but it's all about what works for you and your family. Um, we actually did a tour of this school. So Zubin, my 5-year-old, is actually going to the same school that I went to growing up, which is kind of crazy
Oh,
all in
that's
itself.
awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, it's wild. He was born in the same hospital that I was born in. He's going to the same schools I went to. So there's a weird part of me that's like feeling nostalgic. But for me, like when I entered the school, I still wanted to do a tour. I mean, I knew the school pretty well, but obviously it's changed in the last, 20, 30 years. I just wanted to see what it was like. And my biggest question was diversity. What does the school population look like? And I wanted to make sure that there was a good group of kids that looked like him because I wanted him to feel like he was seen and that he could feel, again, he's not just in a school with like one type of kid, he's in a school, Queens is like the world. And I wanted that to be reflective in a school, and so that was one of my first questions. And the second one for me was, what does the staff look like? Because I want the staff to also be diverse. I don't want it to be that he only sees authority in his school as all white. I want him to see black and brown teachers. I want him to see black and brown students, because then again, there's a certain level of comfort there. So for me, those were the first two things that I talked about when I was doing like that school tour there. And we called a couple of schools and we're asking around. So the $1 million question, it's all about what works for you and your family. And that was what was important for us at that time. So,
So when you were growing up and now Zubin is going to the same school that you are,
yeah,
almost living the same, life like you did. So you know Queens really well. So you know what to give him, what not to give him. I mean, you know it, the back of your hand. When you were going to the same, it's a public school, correct?
yes, yes.
So the public school, was it different? Like when you went in for the tour, when you went in to ask about, the teachers and then the diversity of kids, was it not like that when you were in high school? Or sorry, elementary?
It's the demographic has stayed pretty much the same. But again, like, neighborhoods change, communities change. And so I was just curious. I mean, um, what it was going to be like now versus what it was then. And there were things that have changed, right? Like the technology in the school, the placement of certain things. The building itself looks exactly the same, but the insides of it have changed a little bit because they've added a few more programs. There's more technology. They moved the library, and the principal changed, right? So that's a big deal because in New York City, what I've noticed, it's similar to like startup, right? Like having your own company, leadership makes a big difference as to what the priorities are. Certain
Sure.
principals want to see more arts programs. Certain principals are like, I want to make sure that these kids know how to read by the time they're in second grade or whatever grade it is, right? Like they have certain programs that they might want to install. So I've noticed that New York City seems to have a core program, like curriculum, but what the leadership wants to see and how they want to implement it, what their execution looks like, is a little bit different.
Right.
So in that respect, that's what I was noticing, right? Like, where are they investing the money that they get? Every school gets a certain amount of money into, what kind of after school programs they want to invest in, if they want, again, like dance, arts, STEM, whatever the case may be. And, even though I grew up in the system, I was still trying, and I still am, trying to learn more about it. Like, why is one school a STEM school and another an art school? Like, how does that happen? Why does one school get more federal funding than the other? And what I learned was that schools get more funding based off of the number of enrollments they have, right? So the more students they have, the more money they get. So I got a call from the principal one day, and he was like, how do we attract more people to our school? We have enough
Hmm.
space, we can have more students. And I was like, why does it matter how many students you have? Like, aren't you fine with the number? He's like, no, because we get more money. That means we can have more programs. And I
That's
thought that was
interesting.
interesting because I had no idea that they get more money based off of, the average median income. They get more money
Right.
based off of,
Students.
like the number of students and all of those things. And again, obviously that's important because money will help them invest more in the programming that they can provide, attract more students. Parents will say, oh, wow, like they're actually investing in our families and the students and so on.
Right.
So,
Right.
you know,
So
um,
you've
still
pretty much,
learning.
yeah, no, I'm learning a lot too. And let me just, let me just tell you everything I've learned in the last, I want to say, few weeks. For the longest time, I thought, all right, I'm going to have my daughter, who's 4.5 years old. She's going into kindergarten, just like Zubin is, Sahana. For the longest time, where we live, in the area that we live in, schools are great. The public school is fantastic. And so I just was comparing it to the way I grew up. I grew up in California. So we went to the local zone school, which was awesome, great reputation. And then we went to the junior high, great reputation, and high school, all fantastic reputations. And it was great. I loved my upbringing. It was awesome. It's interesting. I'm trying to think, did I look at the diversity of people at that time? I don't know what I was thinking. I just know that I enjoyed my upbringing. And I think largely it has to do with me being involved with the Indian community outside of the elementary school, just being involved with that. So that really made me think a lot about, I didn't ever feel that there was a lack of community or a lack of diverse people around me. But when I go back now and think about it, there were all kinds of kids in my class, in my school. So I'd never felt the lack of diversity, which is probably why when I moved to New York, it felt right at home for me, because there's so much diversity here. But now I'm looking at my child's school and I'm learning that here in New York, you go to a zoned school, then the middle school is not so great where we live, and then the high school is not so great, and then there's high schools that you test for, which I've never even heard of, like all of these things. And I'm like, you actually test for great high schools? Like what? I've never. Is that only here, by the way? Is that only here? Is that throughout the country?
I'm sure there are some other like major cities where that might be the case, but it is really competitive here, right? Like I think about, and I was talking to somebody about this earlier this week. It's a very stressful environment for a kid. Like, I grew up in a brown household, and we have like this stereotyped. I did have stereotyped parents that were like, start thinking about your SATs when you're in ninth grade. And I was like, but I'm only in ninth grade. Like, I'm not taking that test for another 2-3 years.
Right.
And it was just interesting. Like in New York, there are like, there's Kumon everywhere, right? But kids are studying for these high school tests when they're in like 4th and 5th grade. They're like studying so that by the time they're in 8th grade, when they have to take this test, they have the ability to get in without any problems. That's scary. Like my kid I just want a kid to learn. I don't want.
Well, you know what? I don't know if I feel like, I don't know if it's maybe to us. Yeah, I hear you. It does sound really scary right now, thinking, oh my God, like in the next few years, she's going to have to start thinking about SATs because it feels like it's going to go by really fast. But then sometimes I feel like maybe there is a reason for all of that. There is a reason for the madness to start thinking about it so that they can develop the brain to be like, oh, I have to take a test. I was never good at taking tests. I was horrible at it. My sister was the rock star at taking tests. So, and she studied and like she just knew exactly how to do it. I didn't. I would read it and it would go through one.
I think you and I are similar. Yeah, you and I are similar in that where I hate to study a lot to just be able to get through like a standardized test. But that's the thing. And again, like this is more into like the philosophy of like what education should look like. I don't know, because I'm not an educator. I just understand that every kid is different, and I hate that like everyone sometimes gets compared the same exact way. Like you and I are intelligent people, I'd like to say, and like to think that like the next person is smarter because they aced that test versus I didn't is frustrating, right? Like maybe there's something else that you could, and fine, take the test so there's a standardization. But then how about the other things, right? Like when you apply to college, they look at your extracurriculars. They look at, they do an interview. You write an essay. There's so many other things that I can base your application off of. So I did used to get frustrated when I was like, so there's just this one test for me to be able to get into a good high school. Whereas like in the suburbs, most of the schools are good, like there's not this idea of only one school will, one test score will get you into the school that will give you the gateway to the opportunity to the best college and so on. So I think for me, it's just, my philosophy, I just want to make sure my kids are learning, they're happy, they don't feel stressed, like as long as they're learning every day, they're being, I have an affirmation that I do with Zubin, when I send him off to school, and it's like, be brave, be kind, be awesome. And nowhere in those 3 words is it like, get really good test scores, right?
It's so funny you do that. No, because I tell Sahana, and now I've been starting to tell Rihanna, because they both are, at that age where one goes here and one goes here. And I remember when I would drop Sana off to school, I'd be like, all right, here we go. As we would walk, I'd be like, all right, I am kind. I am strong. I am smart, right? I am loving. Like I would just say those with her. So then make sure you help your teachers out. Make sure you help your friends out in class. Don't leave anyone hanging. So talking about school systems for a second. So let me just share what I've learned in the last few
Yep.
weeks. I am actually to get my thoughts around it. I am actually looking at, so there's three options that we have. She got into a school in Manhattan, which is a gifted and talented school, which is great, and I'm really excited about it. And it just seems like a very well-rounded school. It seems like they have a great curriculum, and they offer STEM and language classes. And it just, when I looked at the curriculum, I was even excited. I was like, wow, I want to go there. I want to learn. I think just looks really cool. But the downside to that is it's about an hour away. So it's about 45 minutes away from where we live. To get on the train, with a 4.5-year-old, almost 5, getting her up at 6 a.m, getting her dressed and out the door by 6:45 just doesn't make sense to me. I don't think that a 5-year-old should have to go through that kind of rigid lifestyle. And, if we don't have to, why would I give that to her? Why? I mean, I think she would hate school. I think she would, internally like say, I don't want to be here. Does that make sense? Because of the commute and all of that stuff. So that was a real big indicator for me is, do I even want to send her there? Because of that, it's going to be very uncomfortable for me,
Yeah.
my husband, to get her there. And then on top of that, we have to say, we love school. She's going to hate it. And I'm seeing that. I think we sent her to a camp this summer for 2 weeks because we wanted to try it out. And she had to get on a bus, and it was an hour ride. And she just, every day we'd fight because she doesn't want to get on a bus. And I don't blame her. She's 4.5 years old, getting on a bus, sitting for an hour.
Yeah, you don't want to have to convince her to love it. You just want her
Right.
to love it and enjoy it because
Right.
she should.
Yeah. No, she loves her pre-K. Her pre-K, class is her home, her second home. Then there's another school here where, like I said, the local, the public school is amazing. The PTA is amazing. Every parent has talked about how amazing the school is, and they love it. And what I love about our public school is that it's great. It's a great curriculum, which I think all schools follow the same curriculum, which we'll talk about. But their after school program is pretty awesome as well. And it's all because the parents come together and they make that happen, which is something I did not know that parents do it. I actually thought that schools did it, but parents do it. The PTA does it. That was so shocking to me. And I feel like, whoa, why didn't I know that? But that's what the PTA does. And then there's a third school. The reason why I'm not sure about the public schools is because there's so many changes taking place with the DOE. And I'm concerned, would my daughter get a good education in a larger size classroom? Then the third option is a private school. Now, when you think about private schools, you think that they're very expensive. They're $40,000, $50,000, and we don't have that kind of money. If I did, I probably would travel around the world with my kids and show them
I know.
real
That
world.
would be another education, yeah.
But I don't have that. And for those that do have that, I think it's amazing that, if you can afford it, fantastic. We don't have that kind of money. But then when we found these private Catholic schools in our area that are just as great, highly talked about, parents love it. I've gone to each of the schools and visited. I was really blown away actually by the class size. I was blown away by how they teach children at a young age, manners and etiquette and respect for adults. And I was drawn to that. Now, I got to make sure that I say this because I want you to understand, we both are Indian, right? We both go to the temple. We both are pretty involved in our culture religiously and outside. Would I consider myself like so religious? No, but enough where I go to the temple and I teach my kids, Ganesh and Hindu prayers and all. So when
it's
did
to give
go
some structure.
Right. When I did go to the Catholic schools, I was concerned, would it be heavily, like would my child, come out, like would this be the only focus? And so the parents that I've spoken to, even the many Indian parents that I've spoken to that do send their kids to these private Catholic schools, all love it. And they have said to me that, the religion is just a subject and that not to worry about it because it's actually quite fascinating. So it's been an interesting journey in the last few weeks of trying to figure out what is the best. But the more I get to know my daughter, the more I'm inclined to wanting to send her to a private school. I love uniforms. Deepti, I swear when you run, by the way, guys, Deepti ran for council and, for city council. And when she does win next time, I really hope you can implement uniforms and even in public schools. I think it's just necessary. We got to have uniforms in public schools. But I love the uniforms. I think it adds value to a child. And so I don't know, that's where I'm at. Like now I was just trying to sit and figure out, look at my daughter and say, okay, where would you want to go? Where do I think you'll thrive? And so I try to ask her questions. And I think the next thing we're going to do is I'm going to literally take her, we're going to go on a field trip and I'm going to show her each school. And I'm going to take a photo of her in front of each school, and then I'm going to show it to her.
It's like the college tours. You're doing it early.
Isn't it? I feel so crazy. Like this should not be.
No,
why is it so hard?
Be this hard.
Yeah, no. Why it was just. It shouldn't be this hard. Why is it so hard to choose what is the right school for your child?
Because we live in a city where it's not an equal footing, right? Like it's not as easy as it sounds. Sorry, I'm just plugging in my charger. It's not as easy, and it's frustrating, right? The schools are segregated. What you were talking about, after school programs are not the same in every school. It's about which set of parents have a network that can contribute to the PTA. They can do the fundraising. Like it's not the same. For any parents that are listening, I would say like a really good podcast to listen to. I'm not sure if you've listened to it. Nice White Parents. It's a New York Times podcast. And it's quite interesting to see, because for people that don't know about the segregation and like the historical context of how segregated, New York City public schools have always been, and how, it does play a huge role in how students have access to opportunities, have access to after school programs, because that's something else you have to think about, right? Like, okay, so my kid is in school from say 8 to 2 or 3 o'clock. Well, what happens after that? If you're a working parent, you can't go in half a day to go pick up your kid. So like, what's going to happen after school? Is there a program, or is somebody going to be there? Do I have to hire a nanny? Like, what do I have to do so that the kid has something else to do till I can actually make it home? And so all of these things are things that like people forget. Like it's not just the school. What are the things that surround the school? What kind of community exists so that my kid, has something else to do afterwards? And so I don't have the answer to why it's so hard. But what I hope is that, we elect people. And this is why I ran for city council, because the problems that I'm talking about with you today are the same things my mom dealt with when she was, and this is 30 years ago, when she was putting me in kindergarten. That like, where does my child go to after school program? Like, where is she going to go to middle school? Where is she going to go to high school? It's the same issues. So we need to elect people that are like, and this is a little bit of a political plug. We just elected 30 women. Right now in our New York City Council, we're going to have 30 women, hopefully, if their November's elections go well, which is going to be the first time New York City's ever had a majority woman city council. There's 51 city council members. So think about how many of those women that are also moms, I think 86% of them are women of color. So think about the issues that they understand and they relate to, and will make sure that they're going to think about parents. They're going to think about, 3K. That's one of the biggest things that I think Mayor de Blasio did, which is he added 3K and a universal pre-K program. How helpful is that for parents like us? Like, I cannot stress how amazing it is to be able to say my 3-year-old is going to be going to school in the same place as a 5-year-old, all because we have this new legislation.
Absolutely.
Right? So we need to remember, like, local public schools are going to be, obviously the DOE is the one that controls everything, but it will only happen if we elect the right people in. If we elect people that look like us and understand what it means to be a working parent, or what it means to be a stay-at-home mom, whatever it is. But those are the people we need to think about, and that's what will make it easier. If people that look like us, understand and come from our similar backgrounds, understand what the schools need and listen to us.
So the PTA is very strong at where, the public school that we're zoned for, PTA is very strong. So when I think about it now, even after talking to you, I feel like I have to go back and look at that public school and reconsider it because their classroom sizes are large though. That's my only concern is it's about 25, 30 kids in a kindergarten classroom and where the other private school is like 15 to 20 kids to one teacher plus an aide versus the public school is just one teacher. So I have to really consider that. But you're right. I mean, I've chosen a career where I'm able to be flexible with my career. I'm able to pick up my kids at, 2:20 or 3 o'clock, whatever time they get out. And then what? So that was one of the biggest reasons why I feel like I'm not going with the school in Manhattan is because half the time we would be spending time in transportation where that's such valuable time for me to be able to take Sahana, who's my daughter, to after school programming to have her go learn something else, right? Even if it's for 45 minutes. If you look at the after school programming, most of these programmings are 45 minutes, like each class, like a dance class is 45, karate is 45, all of these things that they do is about 45 minutes and that's it. So, the school that both the local school, they have after school programming. With COVID, I think it's a little different. So we'll see what happens. But generally they have after school programming where they get, they are in school and then they get dismissed and then they go straight to their after school program. I think it's on campus or they get bused to like a local YMCA or something.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And that's
right?
amazing.
And that's amazing. And then they're busy for 3 hours because that's great for, like sometimes if I have a class, a master class that I'm doing in the evening, or if I have rehearsals or something or the other, I know that my child is there till 6, I can go get her. And yet she's still kept active with this STEM class. Again, it's all PTA run. But the private Catholic school, the class size is smaller. They, from what I hear, from what parents have said, the education seems to be a little bit better. I don't know why or how. I'm not able to still compare what's the difference. I mean, you're obviously paying a minimal amount of money for it, but I'm just not understanding what is the difference in the curriculum aspect of it. But the after school program at these private schools is really nothing to write home about. I mean, it's nothing. They don't have anything. And there's nothing to show for it, which is so sad to me. So then I would have to go pick up my kids. And then it is my job then now to go and take them, right, to their extracurricular activities.
And then that's tough, right? Because it's something you have to schedule within your day. I mean, the same thing right now, for example. Right now my schedule is flexible, but soon it'll start getting busy again. And can I take Zubin to karate class? Can I take him to all the other things that I want to put him in? And I have to hire somebody. So again, that's like an expense out of my pocket. That is not easy, right? It's
no,
like
it's
almost
not
like
easy.
it's another salary. It's an entire salary that you're like putting your kids through private school, then putting your kid for after school programs or any other
Right,
program you want. And it's tough to like have to justify all these costs.
right, right. Yeah, no, I have looked at all of this and I'm just trying to figure out what is the best one. But ideally in my world, it would be a school where the curriculum is amazing. They have a great score, a great testing score. All kids, right? Doesn't matter where you're coming from, but all kids excel. They all get the same education. They all excel. And then they go to an after school program, like right there on campus. Like, to me, the public schools should be big enough where they can have then their after school right there. So the child feels safe, the child feels protected, the child feels they don't have to be shuffled back and forth. Everything is just right there. That becomes their second home. That would be my dream. That would be my wish list. And I'm having to choose right now between a smaller size education, smaller size classroom, individualized attention a little bit more versus the public school or
Yeah, I mean
bigger classroom.
it's a big deal.
Yeah,
That's a big deal.
I
I mean,
know.
that was also a concern, right? Like how many teachers are in a classroom. So okay, if the class size is 26, okay, cool. Fine. Do you have two teachers? Is there a teacher assistant? Is there somebody else helping the teacher when the other student has a question? And that was a concern for me as well, because I wanted to, besides like, especially right now with COVID, like health and safety, I wanted to make sure that like my student, like my kid had the attention they deserved and needed. And
Right,
that's, I mean, it's going to be hard regardless, but it's always
right.
nice to be able to have that. And classroom size, again, does make a difference, I think, personally. Um, it's just like when you're spending one-on-one time with your kid, how they feel like they're being looked after, they're being heard, they're being seen. And I think that's important when kids are growing up to feel like they're being listened to, they're being given that personal attention. So, you know,
One of the best compliments that just recently took place was, so my daughter gets on a bus, goes to camp. It's an hour ride for her. Poor girl. It's just horrible. So every morning she just cries and says, I want to be with mama. I don't want to go. So indirectly, I just took it as, okay, well, clearly I'm fun. And clearly I'm, obviously far more fun to be with in these camps. But then I'm like, my love, we need a break. Like, I can't spend 8 hours with you. And what do we do, for 8 hours? Like, you need to take your energy and go, expedite that somewhere else. But it was just cute to feel that, okay, she obviously wants to be with me, no matter how hard I am on her. She obviously wants to hang out with me. But
because you're the warmest and the most cuddliest person for her. She's like, she's always gonna let me sleep in her bed. She's always gonna give me tummy rubs. She's always gonna be kisses, and like that's a
yeah,
mom's place can never be replaced, right? Like it's
no,
like
that's true. That's true.
so you're always gonna be the most fun. I
But
mean, maybe when when they're teenagers, we won't be the most fun.
we'll have this conversation again when they're teenagers, and
Oh my
then
God.
we'll that might just be obviously that's probably going to be a different topic altogether. But really, I think for all the parents that are out there, I'm curious to know, what is it that you all do? What, like, we've been talking about decision making, and so far what I've narrowed it down to is location. Is it convenient? Is the school convenient for us to go to? Are the teachers diverse? Are the classrooms diverse? Is the school in itself diverse? And teacher ratio, how many kids to a teacher? And what else, when you're looking at a school for a kid, is there something else that I might not be looking at, like, after school programming? And if there is no after school programming, where do you go? Am I
Yeah, I mean,
missing anything else?
I don't, I mean, I think generally those are like the things that I also looking at. I mean, yeah, like you said location, programming, student body diversity, teacher diversity, curriculum. I think that's it. Like in my list, like those are the most important things, and that's how I've judged it so far. But I think as they grow older, the priorities will change. It
Sure.
won't be about just convenience for me as to like how close is the school to my house? Can I drop them off? It'll then be like, what's the best program? I always think about like this. What kind of lifestyle do you want? And then you basically build your life around that. And I think it's the same thing I think about for my kids. Like, what kind of a lifestyle do I want for them? And like base their their education around that. Like, do they,
Sure. I think
you
that's a
know,
great question. Sure.
and
I think
think
that's
about it in that
absolutely
same way.
fantastic. Yeah. No, I think that's really important. What kind of lifestyle do you want, for you and your kid to balance out? If my older one was going to go to the GNT specialized school in Manhattan, our lifestyle would be horrible. I mean, it would be hard. It would be horrible going back and forth. We would actually have to move to Manhattan in order for her to go to that school, and then I would, our finances would be, almost cut in half to almost three-fourths. Then we won't be able
Yep.
to travel. Like, when I look at from that perspective, I'm like, I don't
Yep.
know if it's even worth it. I mean, it's awesome she got in, but I don't know if, that I keep questioning is, how do I know she's even going to do well? How do I know she's going to do well in a really accelerated, very fast programming? I know some parents have said, well, don't you know your kid? I'm like, well, yes, of course I know my kid, but does she show me that she likes to read at home when I read to
I mean,
her?
that's a crazy question, first of all, because
Yeah,
nobody knows anybody completely. You don't even know yourself. We're discovering ourselves every day. You never know how
yeah,
you will be in a certain situation till you're in it. So how can you say, do
true.
you know your kid? Like, yes, I know my kid as best as I possibly can, but at the end of the day, I don't know how they're going to be when they start a
Right,
soccer class. When, like,
right,
they may love it, they may hate it.
right.
And you may think you know someone, but you never fully know them. Like, I think
Yeah,
my dad said it best when I was getting married. When I was like, I'm really young, should I be getting married this young? And he's like, listen, I've been married to your mom for like 20 plus years or 30 plus years at that point. And he said to me, like, I still am getting to know her every day. And I think it's the same thing with your kids. That's why you have to pay attention. That's why
right.
parenting is a lifetime job, and relationships are a lifetime journey that you're going to always learn in different situations about each other. And like, you just have to be conscious of that. That's I think the most important thing. So does the person that said that tell them to F off and just not, no shaming here, just like we're all learning.
Yeah,
And
no, there's been a few parents that have asked me that. So I mean, and that's fine. I mean, they have older kids, so they are probably asking me from, I guess, experience. Who knows? But yeah, I feel like I do know my kid enough where I want to expose her to different cultures and different experiences, and then I'm going to let her tell me what she likes and what she doesn't like. I don't know if she's going to, she might show something different at home, but then in school she might accelerate and like blow me away. And
exactly.
who
And that's the
knows? I have
most
no
important
clue.
thing is to keep listening to your kids, right? And just make sure you're, like you said, just keep asking the questions and then hopefully you're making the best decisions that you
Right,
think as a parent. I think that's what parenting is. It's like you learn it along the way. Yes, you can read up a lot on what other people's experiences are and talk to them. But at the end of the day, it's an everyday journey where you're learning as you're on that journey and you make decisions based off of the things that are happening around you, and no decision is ever going to be the best one. It's just going to be the best one that you're able to make at that time. That's it. Like, I think, a lot of people can say, oh, my parents didn't do this. They were just trying their best. I think every parent,
right.
every human is trying their best to give their kids the best opportunity they can. And that's all I'm trying to do. And, as long as I'm paying attention, I think my kids will be fine. At the end of the day, they're going to have to learn themselves as well, and from their own experiences. And my goal is just I'm like, just be a good human.
Right. I think we're losing you a little bit there, Dipti. And in fact, on that note, looks like we lost you there for a second. But I think on that note, I think it's exactly what you said. It's okay. It's exactly what you said is to really get to know. I mean, just you talk to your children every day, ask them questions, sit with them, listen to them, and understand what they're saying, what they want. Even see their body expressions to see. Like I'm trying to read into a lot. I think I've learned a lot about my older one in the last few weeks just by sending her to camp. So it's been a huge eye opener for me. But I think at the end of the day, I think it's safe to say that our kids are going to be fine no matter what school they go to, and that they're going to be enriched with the culture aspect of it, and also, all the Indian food that we have, as well as all of the, as well as the education that they get. I'm sure they're going to be great. Are you there? I might have lost you. That's okay. Okay, well, Dipti, if you can hear me, then I want you to know that it was amazing having you here with me today. And I appreciate you taking the time to chat with me and help me understand, and the school systems and what we're looking for and what we're not looking for. For the parents that are out there, I really hope that this was helpful for you. We lost you there, right, for a second.
Yeah. Can you hear me
It's
now?
okay. Yeah, I can hear you. Listen, I think what I was saying is, it's at the end of the day, our kids are going to be fine. They're going to be enriched with culture. They're going to be enriched with an education. You're there. What you do, it's perfect because you're able to be at home with them. Like you're able to go back and forth and be flexible. And same here. And I just know that our kids are going to be great, whatever we choose, whatever we decide. And that warms my heart to know that there is no right answer, and that it's just all a learning process every day, and every day I've learned. And that's
Absolutely.
that's that's what's exciting for me, is that I'm learning about my kids every day, of what they like and what they don't like. Um and even through their body language, it's been an interesting journey to even learn what they're saying, even through their body language. So I want to thank you for taking the time to chat with me today, my love. You're like little sister to me. By the way, I'm just very proud of you for
Thank you so
everything
much for
that you've
having
done
me.
in the last decade. I've known you for 20 years. In the last decade, you have just shined. Everyone has talked about you. You are on Instagram at Deepti Sharma,
I appreciate it.
CEO, Food to Eat. I feel like you've been on a lot of talk shows, and a lot of people want to talk to you. And so I just appreciate you taking the time out to chat with me today about your viewpoints and helping me sort through mine out. And I know our kids are going to be great.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it and your kindness. I mean, I've always looked up to you and everything that you've built. So excited to be on this journey together now as parents and as moms, and like just to see how crazy and cool our kids will be in the next, you know, X number of years. Like, it was just like, you know, I watched like all the yeah, yeah, yo, yo videos and like the oh yeah videos. And it's just so cute to see our personalities in the kids. And so I'm excited to like keep seeing them grow and become them like their own personalities, right?
For sure.
But again, thank you. And, you know, I'm excited to keep, you know, talking about this journey.
More to come, I'm sure, right? We'll be talking when our kids start school. I'm sure we'll be having other conversations of, can you believe this just happened? So I can't wait to have many more
I know.
conversations with you. Thank you for being my mommy friend and my friend for life. Take care.
Love you too. Bye.
Thanks, guys, for joining me today. I really hope that was amazing, and I hope you got some answers. I hope you got some insight on just trying to choose the best school for your child. I feel this is a really important time because it's like it's the start of their education. So I'm very nervous. It's very emotional for me. It's yeah, I know I'll make the right decision. My husband and I know we will make the right decision. And so in the meantime, yeah, we're on this journey, and if you have any thoughts, I would love to hear it. Please send it my way. Email me, or if you want to privately chat with me, go for it. I'm on Instagram at Masala Bangra, at Sarina Jain, and of course on social media. So we'll love to hear from you, and we can go from there. Thanks for chiming in, you all. I'll see you guys next time.